Amanda Goodman-Lee, Jeff Lee, you are honeybee farmers. It's not something that a lot of people think, oh yeah, I want to be a honeybee farmer. And it's probably not what you thought of when you started your career. How did you get to be honeybee farmers? And if somebody's looking at you going, well, I want to be a honeybee farmer too, what do they need to know?
Well, not only that, is how did we get from living in the Lower Mainland, Vancouver, and up in Creston as well, into a small town. I mean, you could knock me over with a feather if you ever thought, like 5 years ago, I'd look down the road and say, you're going to move to Creston and you're going to have a farm, and so
a farm with flying critters.
That's right.
For your viewers, let's set the table. Amanda was an advertising executive with the Sun and the Province. I was a longtime reporter for the Vancouver Sun, and
ink-stained wretch.
That's right. We call him a recovering journalist.
Yeah, recovering journalist.
That's what I tell people now. I'm a recovering journalist and having fun at it.
You look so much healthier too, and I mean that.
Well,
you look incredibly healthy, whereas when you were in journalism, it was taking its toll on you.
It was.
You know what? Journalism takes a toll on everybody.
Yes, it does.
I loved the business. I absolutely loved being a reporter, and you cover City Hall from Gordon Campbell to Gregor Robertson. You kind of get into it all. Mm-hmm. I loved it. However, lives change, industries change. The newspaper industry and media have undergone significant changes, and I think my place, if I gently put it, was somewhere else. I always said to myself, and I think Amanda said the same thing too, is that when you get up in the morning and you no longer want to go to work because of whatever is the issue at work, it may be time to go find a different job. We are only on this earth for a little while, and so you might as well make the most of it. So for both of us...
Okay, let me ask you a question right now. When you get up to go to work now, can you hardly wait to get there?
Yeah, especially since my office is literally across my driveway. Yeah, no, we love what we
love
do.
it.
I absolutely love it.
And I can say the same thing. When I left journalism to start my own business, I couldn't wait to wake up in the morning to go to work, and I didn't want to go to sleep at night because I didn't want to stop working. And here I am 21 years later, and I still feel the same way. And I suspect you're going to do the same thing.
Well, I don't think that it matters whether it's journalism or beekeeping or advertising. It's your attitude in life. Am I right?
Yeah, what's your passion for what you're doing? Yeah.
In my office, when I worked at the newspaper, I had a big poster on it, and it says, "Passion never dies." And I looked at that every day, and I knew you set the intention in your head, and I would look at that. When I first started at the newspaper, I worked in classifieds, and my first classified ad, I couldn't wait to open that paper the next day and find my classified ad that I put in, that first one. I was such
Same
a
as me as a reporter.
right?
Yeah.
Just like a nerdo all the way through, right? I had to find that, and I really loved it. I loved it from the phone room all the way up. The end, I was a manager, and then I hated it. Like, I would dread Monday mornings and drag it in. But when I look at the path, if I didn't work at the paper and advertising, we wouldn't be where we were.
No.
First of all, we wouldn't have met. Second of all...
Okay, that won't make sense to anybody who doesn't know you. How can that link you to now?
So this is where I'm going to go. Science World was my client, and they had a show called The Science of Fear.
Yes.
And they would, when they'd have new shows, they would invite the different media. So they would have, like, the Sun and Province would get a team together of 4, and they'd have these fun media challenges. So we would see, like, the JRFM people there, and the CBC and CTV and Global, and we all had these teams, and we'd go. And so the one thing we had to do, we were a team of 4, and the first thing on The Science of Fear is we had to pick up these live hissing cockroaches and put them into a jar, and whoever got the most hissing cockroaches in the jar, like, they won that one, and it went on. So it was this fun media challenge, and they asked me if I'd like to go in and do a beer to bees.
A beer to bees.
Mm-hmm. And so what a beer to bees is they take the queen bee and they put her in a little cage, and they have it on a string, and they put the string, like, they tie her around your neck, and then you hold a board, like a bristle board, in front of you, and the person will come and
Dump 5 or 10,000 bees on you.
and then the bees, they want to go near the queen, and so they crawl up this bristleboard, and they prep you for everything that's going to happen when you go in, and their little legs will hold on to you, and you can feel it, and it feels like they would say, "Don't worry, you're not getting stung."
No.
And then the bees, they all cluster on your face and around, and then they heat up. You feel this heat. And so it's
So the person who
it's an
did this-
interesting
So
feeling.
there, it's a direct line right from there
Right from
to
there.
being a
But
honeybee
here's
farmer.
the weird thing. I was really calm, and I kept waiting for the fear to come in. But I was getting calmer and more relaxed.
Calmer.
Yeah.
yeah.
It was like my blood pressure went down. I was in the moment. I wasn't it was very zen-like, which is part of how we came out. Just very meditative, right? And he
So
said,
what do you do? Come running home and say, "Hi, honey,
was
I know
there.
what
I
our
was
Jeff
actually
was
watching.
there, and he was
I was watching.
and
I was taking photographs. I have the evidence.
When they were taking the bees off me, John said, the beekeeper who had put them on, he said, "You're so calm, you'd be an excellent beekeeper." So I came out of the booth, and I'm like, guess what he said? And
So I have a slightly different variation on this. I'd always like to have the idea of having animals around us, and we ended up getting into bees. But here's something that I discovered about bees and my work. As an investigative reporter, as a political reporter, you're always wired up. You are on game. You know what it was like, Stu.
Yeah.
We were always rush, do.
Yeah.
Have a deadline, come in at 8:00, get an A1 story out on deadline.
Oh,
by
the
4,
adrenaline rush,
all that
the
stuff.
Yeah.
anxiety, everything. All
Well, let me
wrapped
tell
up
you
in
what
one.
happens
Yeah.
when you are keyed up like that and you walk into your bee yard.
You get stung.
Your bees come out and tattoo the hell out of you. and so what I learned is on a Friday when I would go in and I would spend the weekend working with the bees. You have to be calm. You have to be gentle. You have to respect what it is that they are telling you. And you can do, bees are these amazing creatures. You can do all kinds of things with them, right? Don't piss them off. Okay?
Okay.
At the end of a weekend, I would come out of the bee yard and I would be much calmer, much nicer, not more handsome, but I was certainly a better human being. And the phenomenal thing that came out of that was that my writing was always getting better and better and better, because no longer was I I was pressured and feeling I had to do these things.
So you were writing against deadline rather than writing.
I was writing
with
against
purpose,
deadline.
really.
I can still write against deadline.
Yeah.
But the reality of it was that I was more thoughtful and more careful and more calm about my writing and more purposeful. And that I think was one of the great lessons that I learned in my later life about how to change things up. When we all go as human beings, we always want to know what's next for us.
Yeah.
What can I do? And was it Mark Twain that had 5 different careers, or was it, I forget who it was. But the point of this being
Yeah.
that we can change, we can adapt. And as much as we hope our bees will adapt to the climatic conditions that we're giving to them, to the challenges that they have, those sort of adaptations also have followed myself as I go through this, and Amanda as we go through this. We've learned we actually can do more things. Now I will tell you, I always thought that being a journalist was a hard job in the sense that you had to really be on your game.
Yes, you do.
You do. As a commercial beekeeper, I can tell you I have never worked harder in my life and more physically active. I have to multi-manage. We both have to multi-manage all kinds of issues. And on top of that, the darn boxes are fairly heavy.
And also, when you live in a small town, if you run out of something or something breaks, you have to learn how to fix things.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to learn how to
I can now weld.
we had a woman worked for us this summer. She is from Africa, and she always would say, was it Kalajuli? Sorry, Joan, I'm getting it wrong, the termination, but it's making dew under the hot sun, which in Africa...
Julakali.
Julakali.
Yeah,
and it's making dew under the hot sun. So sometimes she'd see me doing something, and she'd go, in Africa. So you're adapting, you're fixing something with what you have around you. You're not running to the store because you can't go to... Like in Creston, we can't run to Home Depot or to Canadian Tire to get something so easily.
Yeah, our nearest, just to put it in perspective, our nearest Costco is in Idaho.
Yeah.
Okay. So but I mean, in a way, that's great.
Let's get back to the career. So back to the career. So after this whole experience, and when I came out and told Jeff, what he had said, Jeff said, I thought it would be fun to get into beekeeping as a hobby in retirement. We decided that...
Did you look at him and go, excuse me?
No, I was like, no, that's really cool.
This is what's great about
this.
this.
And here's what's really interesting. A lot of people assume in our relationship that Jeff started with the bees, but it was me. And so we took a class, and then we got 2 hives. And he had his hive, and I had my hive. And he kept stealing bees from my hive to make his look better. I swear that happened that year.
No. But
anyway,
the reality of it is...
We had our own hives, and what we did, and I think it was really smart, and when we teach classes to people, we say to couples, or even if it's like a...
What classes?
Like we teach beginning beekeeping classes.
Which gets to that other part of that question you asked. Right. How do you do this?
We say, have your own hive. Like sometimes we have parents and kids.
Grow into it, in other words.
So have your own and make the decisions on your own hive, because that's how you learn.
So beekeeping is in a renaissance phase right now. It's in a growth phase. People want to do it because they think it's really cool, and it's been.
Well, maybe they want that Zen-like experience that you both talked about.
Well, that's a benefit to it.
Yeah.
But they want to quote save the bees, and not everybody can do that. And sometimes what we tell people is, if you really want to help the bees, go plant forage that the bees can live on. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's your contribution. But
fair enough.
But when people want, like we've seen over the last 5 or 7 years, a significant growth in urban beekeepers in British Columbia, to the point now where the municipalities, with the exception of places like Abbotsford, which is a farming community and doesn't want to have bees in the urban area, many municipalities now have adapted bylaws to allow the keeping of beehives in the backyard. And what we tell people is, if you want to be a beekeeper, and it's fun, first of all, go take a course from a recognized instructor. Get a pair of hives, not 1, but 2, and that's so that you can manage problems with them. Okay, and then be gentle with yourself, because the learning phase for a beekeeper's life is all of his life, all of her life. There's a saying we have at the BC Honey Producers Association, which is that if you talk to 4 beekeepers, you'll get 5 opinions. Okay,
they're like economists.
They're like economists, And if you are really wanting to do this, you will continue to learn all your lives. I mean, like we're not spring chickens anymore.
But don't try to make a dramatic leap. Always stay within that zone of proximal learning.
Grow with the bees.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Grow with your bees.
Learn as you go. Because if we had not known anything about bees, and the business in Creston came up for sale, and we just went there and we took on 300 colonies. Oh man, we would
probably just killed them all.
We would have killed ourselves probably. It would have been like really hard mentally to manage that.
So how long were you hobbyists then?
5 or 6 years.
So that gave you a really good grounding on what you needed to know about
that, and
it gave you a foundation.
It did. But the reason why I laughed about that is because now, as commercial beekeepers, we're still learning and we're still making. So this year, for example,
welcome to entrepreneurship as well.
Oh, yes.
In 2019, we recovered from we thought we knew what we were doing, and in 2018 we had a significant disaster. We've managed to rebuild. But we also have been the beneficiaries of great mentors who have said, you know what? We went there too. We have had our own problems. And as we can prepare all we want. We can think we know everything we want, and nature will throw you a curveball. You will have your bees completely prepared for winter, and it turns out that last 2 weeks in March, when it was supposed to be warm and everything got really cold and the bees went downhill, there's a saying about what happens. It starts with an S, but in reality, I guess what I'm trying to get to here is that as we learn, we continue to learn, but we still make mistakes.
Okay, so what does a typical day look like for you?
Well,
And I'm sure that it's different depending on
4:30, I wake up and I get her a copy of coffee at 6. No, I'm just,
well, that's in the springtime. We get up very early in the morning, mostly because the birds are where we live. It's very noisy. But we
The
get up
days are
early in the
seasonal.
morning, and it's seasonal. So during pollination, we're working late evenings into the night. So
Why? What happens at night?
bees don't fly,
So?
we have
so
to.
you can move them.
And so that's when you're moving them into farmers' fields and so on.
We move them.
Okay.
So you don't want to bees. Bees will orient.
Yes. They do the fly up and
They-
kind of like the way you do with
You
your
carry
own.
on with what our day looks like.
I know. I feel like I've had a jolt of espresso right now. I'm all excited about talking about our business. Well, in the springtime, so we're getting ready for pollination. So we're out for most of the days, but when we have to move into pollination, we go out probably around 6, 7 at night. We start to get the hives ready. We will close up the entrances so that because as soon as you start to move the hive, the bees do come out. And if it's warm enough, they'll fly, even though it's night.
So hopefully you got all your bees back in the hive.
So
We do generally.
Yeah, we do. And we leave some hives behind so that
Just
if
in
any
case.
bees
Okay.
get out. So there's always that. But we'll start moving, and then that can
Pollination,
go
so-
till we're done, like
3 o'clock in the
midnight, 1. One time, Jeff and I were in a field, I remember, and it was the last field, and we had to unhitch the trailer and go all the way to the back. This is when we were in the Lower Mainland into blueberries.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Trailer got stuck.
hive.
Oh.
No, remember the last hive. We
dropped
were
it.
so bone dead tired, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. And Jeff said, "Okay, what I'll do is I'll get on the back of the truck." And we used to hand bomb, lift everything by hand, and it was double stacked, very heavy, and the hive probably was about 200 pounds. And I was on one end, and
Dropped
Jeff
it.
says, "I'll pull it up," and
Dropped it.
and pull the weight up. But what happened was the strap started to come loose,
And we dropped
He
it.
pulled it up and dropped it.
So,
And I
thinking about a huge box of bees now out at night. You don't have any light, and Amanda's
it's
standing there
off.
in the middle of them.
Amanda was not standing in the middle. Amanda was running
dancing.
in the middle of the field, dropping her drawers to get the bees out of my pants because they came up my pant leg.
All right,
they were
so-
all over. So there are
weren't so
those
calm
things.
then.
So
No.
that, like we've had some funny things that happen, but you get so that's spring.
So yeah,
So spring, we're running around fields with
Yeah.
our pants down, getting bees out in the middle.
No,
of the
that's
night.
not. We're learning as we're getting better. So beekeeping is seasonal.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not like where you live in the Lower Mainland and you have a job that you get a paycheck every 2 weeks. It's like farming. It's seasonal work and it's seasonal pay.
Mm-hmm.
So spring, it's your buildup of bees to get them ready for your honey production in the summer. It's your making sure that they have their treatments to make sure they don't have mites in the late summer and going into the fall. And then you have them coming into winter. So our workloads change.
They go
depending
up and
on-
down. So
Yeah, but then you also have to produce your products.
So yeah,
All the
so it
time.
always
Yeah.
so August is it's a funny thing because so we have pollination, we come out of pollination, so we're either like taking our hives and splitting them in two because they're building up and we don't want them to swarm. You don't want bees in
Yeah.
trees because when the colony gets too big,
You have to move them off.
half the
another-
colony
Yeah.
Well,
half the
us-
colony will leave with the old queen and they'll produce a new queen.
New queen.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how they
Yeah.
keep their populations going.
So there's queens, drones, and
Worker bees.
worker bees,
Yeah,
right?
and-
And the drones are there to basically mate with the queen.
That's correct.
And the worker bees go do
Worker
all the
bees
other
have
work.
Do
stingers.
all the work.
They can sting.
But
they
worker
also
bees
do the
can
work.
graduate to drones, can't
No,
they?
worker
male,
bees.
female.
Can graduate to a
No,
queen?
No.
it works this way.
Oh, okay.
In the hive, there's a queen,
Yeah.
She has been mated by multiple drones.
Yes.
Okay, so she has the ability to lay an egg and fertilize that egg, and that becomes a worker bee, which is female. Okay, if she wants to create a drone, and the drones are, you're correct, are used only for propagation of
The hive.
yeah,
Basically.
Basically, what they do is they go out and they mate with other queens from other hives. She will lay an egg, but she doesn't fertilize it. It's called haploid versus diploid. It's just half the chromosomes. So the end result is that your hive is made up of primarily of worker bees. And then there's these guys over here.
Some of them.
Well,
yeah.
and during the summertime, there can be a lot.
Okay.
And then there's one queen. And
Per hive.
per hive. I mean, like sometimes you will find where
Mother-daughter.
Mother-daughter will have two queens, but it's for a short period of time.
Because one is taking over
That's
from
right.
the other.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
And so honeybees, worker bees, can defend by stinging.
Yes.
They only when they sting, they die. Their stinger rips out, and then that's the end of the bee. In the case of the drone, they don't have a stinger. And one of the great jokes we always like to do with our people who come and tour is I'll go and grab a drone and I'll say to a young kid, "Do you mind holding this bee for me?" And knowing that it can't sting.
But the other
Right.
thing that's really wonderful about
mean.
drones and people in fear is that I've helped people get over their fear of bees
Just by holding them to
by
a drone.
taking them out, like suiting them all out. We go very slowly. We go to a hive and everything, and then I show them. I have bees walk on my hands and everything. Then I'll pick up a drone, and then I tell them this drone won't sting you, doesn't have a stinger and everything, and I give them the drone, and they
start to calm down.
They calm down. So then that feeling of having that bee walk on them, they realize, and I said, the worker bee will be the same, and then I show them. And it's really, really satisfying to see people get over a fear.
Okay. So this is about careers, and it's
Yes.
clearly a satisfying career. You're
Very
glad
much.
you
I
made
love
this
it.
change, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the right person or couple,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great lifestyle as well.
It is.
It
But I
is.
will tell you something about it. It's like anything we do in life. It's hard work, and you have to. Because it's a small business. You also have to watch your margins. You have to watch what you're doing. You have to. You have all of the issues that come with being a small business or a small farmer. Customer relations, people being either happy or unhappy with your product, having employees and being able to schedule them properly, and also have working relations. When you have a small business and you have only one or two employees, your relationship with that employee is actually much, much more acute than if you're a large company.
Yeah.
So
Because you know everything about them.
there are things that we have learned together that we never thought we would have to deal with. How to do payroll. We never thought about some of the issues of taxation. We've just gone through the help of the Columbia Basin Trust a program for analyzing our cost of production, where we actually have a better understanding of the various things that we're doing, which one makes more sense, what makes more money, how to adjust it if we need to, whether or not we're in the right game. These are all small things that as small business people and as commercial beekeepers, we never thought we'd need to do.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Well, and I think too, like if you're looking at a career change, and we are talking about careers, is that be willing to go where the career is. So at the beginning, I mentioned I never thought I would be in Creston. It wasn't even on our radar until we got a phone call from the bee inspector in that area telling us that there was an opportunity coming up and we like it. And we got that phone call on Friday, May 5th, and we looked at the property and the business on Sunday, May 7th. We had we have a business consultant that helps us when we're stuck and we need to figure things out and need a sounding board. And he just acts as that sounding board and ran by what we were thinking through him and made an offer on Tuesday. 4 weeks later, sold our house and
Wow.
and
August
moved.
yeah.
And so people say, how did you choose Creston? And I said, Creston chose us, but we love it. And every day is a different day. The season changes. And let me tell you, January sometimes just can't come soon enough. I need to rest.
But the long and short of this is that you have a career that makes a difference. You have a career that matters. And look at how fulfilled and
Happy.
how I'm going to be corny here, but you're buzzing about your work. And
Very much
it's
so.
absolutely
Yes.
fabulous.
Yeah, we
It
love
is.
it.
Yeah.
And I always think I feel like I did something good in the world today, taking care of the bees. I know
Wow.
it sounds
You can't ask for anything better than that in a
No,
career.
no,
hate
you
to-
feel like you're a steward of, no pun intended, but you feel like you're a steward of the earth. And I don't mean that like an airy-fairy type of thing. You just feel like I've done something, and it may be small, but it makes a big difference in our
there is a great
lives.
satisfaction out of this. I entered journalism because I really liked the idea of being part of society and having the ability to tell stories and to make a difference. And so, when I look at I spent 30 years with the Vancouver Sun. When I look at the stories that I did and the influence that my stories sometimes had on people, and the fact that I covered City Hall for all that long, you think somehow that's your epitaph. That's what's going to be where you are best remembered. The funny thing is that now, where we live and with what we do, I actually get much more satisfaction. I still write a lot, but I find that I am no longer worried about whether or not City Council has made the right decision on some housing policy. And in fact, being back in Vancouver this week, we have driven around and I've looked at some of the places that I've written stories about, and I've said, how did they get that so wrong? So for me, it's a very good thing that we're a 10-hour drive east, where I can now look at the local town council and say, please get it right.
Perfect note to wrap up. Thank you for sharing your career journey with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.